Are we born as a blank slate? Are we born into this world to relearn everything? Or are we born with memories locked inside our subconscious with wisdom on a million things? In today's episode, we will be answering this question and more. Listen now.
Hey, you're listening to Mystic Dummies. This is your host, Jennifer.
And this is Siona.
This podcast is where we bring our life experiences, have conversations, and shine a light upon everyday mysteries.
From mysteries of this world to the mysteries of ourselves, we talk about it all.
If you are looking for a sign, this is it. Tune in to Mystic Dummies every week right here.
This week we will be discussing about our collective mind that many call as collective unconscious. The collective unconscious was a radical concept in its time. Some of you might have heard the name of Sigmund Freud. He's a big deal among the psychology folks, I tell you. But there was a man who he was friends with. But then they got into a fight and Sigmund was like, "I'm your daddy. You gotta listen to me." But this man was like, "Nah, that's some bullshit. I'm going my separate way. Peace." That man was Carl Jung. He is the guy because of whom we know about introversion and extroversion, the two major flavors of personality. And Carl was the person who brought us the concept of collective unconscious and personal unconscious.
Also, Jung had proposed that the collective unconscious is a layer of our unconscious mind we come into this world containing that connects each one to the history of thoughts and behaviors of all of mankind.
Exactly, yeah.
I read somewhere that this idea crystallized for Jung after a dream that he was in a house with the first floor well decorated and organized, representing the conscious personality. Then the ground floor, more medieval and dark, that represents personal unconscious. And finally, a basement with signs of primitive culture and with ancient skulls, which is the collective unconscious.
Yeah, and a modern analogy could be to imagine the collective unconscious rather like an inherited database or like the computing cloud. It is a vast field of information going back to ancient times that we can all access should we so need. And that allows us to have experiences that are typical of humanity.
Yes. So coming back to personal unconscious. It is unique for each of us as it is made from the life experiences that we each have individually. Whereas, on the other hand, the collective unconscious is defined as the part of the psyche which can be negatively distinguished from a personal unconscious by the fact that it doesn't owe its existence to personal experience and consequently is not a personal acquisition.
In simpler terms, the more or less superficial layer of the conscious is known as the personal unconscious, and it is very personal to the individual. However, this personal unconscious rests upon a deeper layer which is inborn. This collective unconscious does not develop individually but is inherited.
The word collective indicates that this part of the unconscious is universal in nature. In contrast to the personal psyche, it has contents and modes of behavior that are more or less same everywhere and in all individuals. The collective unconscious consists of pre-existent forms, the archetypes. In other words, the expression of the collective unconscious is through that of archetypes. We will be talking more about the archetypes in our next episode. So stay tuned, guys.
Dude, have you heard the concept of twice born?
I think I have. I'm not quite sure.
Okay, so let me explain. The thing is, when a person is first born, they physically come into the world and then have a second birth, which is spiritual in nature. In Sanskrit, it's called as Dvija. And this word appeared first in Dharma Sutra literature, which was trending during the medieval era of India. Like you see, just like the twice born, we are born and then reborn when we unlock those past memories and become aware of one's true self.
So when does this spiritual birth happen?
Spiritual birth happens in the same life itself, only if the person is ready to accept themselves and unlock their potential as divine spiritual beings. As Rumi once said, everything in the universe is within you. Look inside yourself. Everything that you want, you already are.
Yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense. Coming back to collective unconscious, how does something get carried on for so many years?
We know what DNA is, right? The genetic ingredient which bases our whole identity and personality and everything. So going back to the 6th grade chapter of reproduction, a zygote is formed when an egg which contains the mother's DNA and the sperm which contains the father's DNA conjoins. Is it? Am I
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
so we have the combined genetics of our parents.
Yes. Now, if we zoom in closer and closer, we see that their DNA consists of their parents' genes, which is 2 pairs each, mom side and dad side. Zoom in more. We see that those genes have the DNA of their parents. That's again 2 pairs each, mom side and dad side. And zoom in more. There's 2 pairs each again. And now that's mom side and dad side.
Wow, that was a pretty good explanation, and it also made it really easy to understand.
I mean, we can keep going on like this till we reach the first people in your lineage who ever procreated and then their lineage.
Damn, it's a never-ending process. Almost seems like the Fibonacci numbers.
Yeah, like, I mean, maths and science do go hand in hand.
Okay, so we know about the collective mind. But dude, why do you think it is important to know? Why would anyone care?
Knowing that you don't function alone gives you mental support that you are not the only one experiencing some shit. People that you know or might not know, people in the past or in the future, at some point might have gone through the same or let's say similar shit that you are going through, which gives you the satisfaction that you can get through that situation and that you do have a way out.
As you rightfully said, we are all connected, not physically like the Siamese twins, but through energy and mind. We are all operating from a similar energy point. To explain this, let me briefly tell you the story of the egg by Andy Weir. The story of the egg questions the purpose of life and human existence. It is a fascinating story which shows the journey of a man after he has died. So there is a beautiful YouTube video on this titled The Egg. You will find the link to that in the description box. We highly recommend that you watch it. So the story goes like this. Following his death, the 48-year-old man meets a godlike entity and asks him what would happen to him from there on. The godlike entity answers that he would be reincarnated as a Chinese peasant girl in 540 AD. The man is shocked to hear this and questions how he could live such a different life in such a different time. As the story goes along, the euphemism ties back to an egg, as it implies that the whole world and all of its life forms is like one big egg, constantly growing and evolving as one human race opposed to millions of individuals. The God-like entity in the video says that every time you victimize someone, you were victimizing yourself. Every act of kindness you have done to yourself. Every happy and sad moment ever experienced by any human was or will be experienced by you.
Dude, I personally believe in the theory of reincarnation and the fact that you are no one and you are everyone.
Yeah, so true.
Also, I want to mention something I read in a book, that compassion is the ego's highest feeling for other life. From the story that you just told, we need to show compassion to others because in some way we are them. So I feel like we should treat others like we want to be treated. Also, this thing is not something new. We ignore, or sometimes we mold it into and use it in our own context. We show compassion to only certain kind of people and say fuck you to the rest. That's the kind of bullshit that really pisses me off.
Exactly. Showing compassion and kindness is free of cost. Don't do it for someone else. Do it for yourself. It might bring some hope in this hopeless world. Because we are the sum of all the things, known and unknown, conscious or unconscious, past, present, or future.
Yes. I came across something really beautiful. In Islam, among Allah's own names are Rahman and Rahim, which means compassionate and merciful. Compassion is the most frequently occurring word in the Quran. Each of its 114 chapters, with the exception of the 9th, begins with the invocation, in the name of God, the compassionate, the merciful. The great mystical writers of Islam, the Sufis, wrote constantly of love and compassion as essential to the spiritual path of the Muslim. Love, as they described, is as the remedy of all ills and the alchemy of existence. Love transforms poverty into riches, war into peace, ignorance into knowledge, and hell into heaven.
So true. Rumi once said that grief can be the garden of compassion. If you keep your heart open through everything, your pain can become your greatest ally in your life search for love and wisdom.
We really did have a great conversation today.
Yeah, we did. And we can remember all that we spoke in just 3 words: compassion, humility, and oneness. Hope you all found it insightful too. That's all from us today. We'll meet next week with a brand new episode, so stay tuned. Until then, this is Jennifer.
And I, Siona.
Mystic Dummies signing off.